The story begins in a quiet town where Elena lived with her stepmother, Margaret, after her father's passing. Elena was 17, quiet, and filled with dreams. Margaret, however, treated her with coldness, as if Elena were an intruder in her own home. Every morning, Elena cleaned the house before school. She dusted the furniture, scrubbed the floors, and prepared tea for Margaret. Margaret never thanked her. Instead, she criticized, "You missed a spot again." Useless girl. Elena lowered her eyes, swallowing the words she wished she could say. Her classmates never knew the weight she carried. At school, she smiled faintly, hiding the exhaustion of long nights of chores. Teachers noticed her sharp mind. But Margaret forbade Elena from joining after-school clubs, saying, "Books don't clean houses." Elena kept her silence. Sometimes at night, Elena would sneak a notebook from under her bed and write. She dreamed of becoming a writer, of creating worlds where she could escape her pain. One day, she whispered to herself, "My words will matter." The candlelight flickered, her only witness. Margaret's son, Daniel, was Elena's only ally. He was 2 years older, kind, and protective. When Margaret insulted Elena, Daniel often spoke up. "Mother, that's enough," he would say, though Margaret ignored him. Still, Elena felt a spark of warmth in her lonely existence. But Daniel, too, was limited. His mother controlled him, using guilt to bind him. "After all I've sacrificed for you, Daniel," she would remind him, "you owe me your obedience." And so, while Daniel comforted Elena in whispers, he could never truly shield her. One autumn afternoon, Margaret's cruelty escalated. She forced Elena to scrub the courtyard stones until her hands bled. Daniel rushed to her side, furious. "She's not your servant," he shouted. Margaret's eyes turned icy. "She is nothing here. And you, Daniel, should remember your place." That night, Elena sat by her window, bandaging her sore hands. Daniel entered quietly. "I can't stand how she treats you," he whispered. Elena looked at him, tears in her eyes. "I'll survive, Shirhi," she said. "But sometimes I wonder if surviving is all I'll ever do." Daniel placed a hand on hers. "You're stronger than she knows. And one day, Elena, you'll show the world who you truly are." His words lingered in the air, igniting a fragile hope inside her heart. She clung to that promise as if it were life itself. Winter arrived, and with it, Margaret's demands grew harsher. Elena was forced to rise before dawn to fetch water from the well, even in the freezing cold. Her hands cracked, her breath turned to mist. Yet Margaret never showed a shred of compassion. One morning, Daniel intercepted her at the door. "Let me do it," he offered, reaching for the bucket. But Elena shook her head. "If she sees you helping me, she'll punish you too." Daniel's jaw tightened, anger burning in his eyes. "She can't keep us prisoners forever." That evening, Margaret hosted a gathering of wealthy neighbors. She paraded Daniel proudly, praising his studies and charm, but ignored Elena, who served drinks and tidied plates like a servant. "Don't speak unless spoken to," Margaret hissed before the guests arrived. During the dinner, one guest asked, "Is this your daughter?" pointing at Elena. Margaret forced a smile. "Oh no, just a distant relative who helps around." The words cut Elena like knives. Daniel clenched his fists under the table, fury boiling, but he stayed silent to avoid a scene. Later that night, Elena sat alone in the kitchen, washing dishes with trembling hands. Daniel entered quietly. "You don't deserve this," he said. Elena's voice cracked. "Maybe she's right. Maybe I am nothing." Daniel leaned closer. Don't ever believe her lies. You are everything she fears. Elena frowned, confused. What do you mean? Daniel lowered his voice. She fears your strength, Elena. She knows you have a light she can't control. His words startled her. No one had ever said such things. For the first time, she dared to imagine he might be right. Days later, Margaret discovered Elena's secret notebook hidden under her mattress. She tore through the pages with disgust. This nonsense? You think scribbling words will feed you? Pathetic. Elena's heart broke as she watched her dreams shredded in Margaret's hands. Daniel stormed in. Enough, Mother! You can't destroy her like this, Margaret snapped back. She is weak. I'm doing her a favor by reminding her of reality. Elena sobbed quietly, clutching the few pages that survived. In that moment, her resolve began to harden. That night, Elena whispered into the darkness, You can take my words, but you can't take my voice. It was the first spark of defiance, a fire that would soon grow beyond Margaret's control. Spring came, but the tension inside the house never eased. Elena worked tirelessly, her hands rough and scarred, yet her spirit carried a quiet flame. Daniel noticed it. Every evening, he found her gazing at the stars, whispering dreams into the night. One evening he asked, What do you see out there? Elena smiled faintly. Freedom, a life where I can be more than a shadow in her house. Daniel's chest tightened. One day, Elena, one day you'll have it, and I'll be there to see it. Margaret, however, grew suspicious of their closeness. She began watching them with hawk-like eyes, her voice dripping with venom. Careful, Daniel. Don't waste your loyalty on someone who brings you nothing but shame. Daniel answered calmly but firmly. The only shame here is how you treat her. Margaret's fury boiled. She locked Elena in her room for 2 days with barely any food. The walls felt like a prison, but Elena's mind kept wandering to her notebook, to the words she no longer had but still carried within. She began to compose verses in her head. On the 3rd day, Daniel unlocked her door in secret. Come, you need air, he whispered. They slipped into the garden, where blossoms scented the night. For a moment, Elena felt human again, not just a burden. Daniel smiled. See? The world is still yours, but their stolen peace didn't last. Margaret caught them returning. Her rage was volcanic. You betray me, Daniel, for her, she screamed. Daniel stood tall. I protect her because you never will. Margaret slapped him, her hand trembling with fury. Elena's heart shattered. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed Daniel's courage, his pain, and Margaret's cruelty. For the first time, Elena thought, maybe I'm not powerless. Maybe I can fight. The idea terrified her, yet it also gave her strength. She began to save small scraps of paper, writing fragments of poetry in secret, hidden words, hidden courage. Though Margaret tried to silence her, Elena's spirit grew louder, and Daniel, though bound by fear, continued to be her quiet guardian. Every day brought new trials, but within Elena, something unstoppable had begun to bloom. Margaret could not see it yet, but the girl she tried to erase was becoming a woman no cage could hold. Summer arrived, bringing warmth to the town, but inside Margaret's house the coldness only deepened. Elena now carried herself with quiet dignity, though her stepmother's insults rained down daily. Each wound left a scar, yet each scar made her stronger. One morning Daniel found Elena in the garden, scribbling lines on scraps of paper. Still writing? He asked gently. Elena nodded. It's all I have. Daniel took one scrap, reading her words aloud. His eyes widened. Elena, this is beautiful. People need to hear this. Fear crossed her face. If she finds out, she'll destroy me. Daniel shook his head. Not this time. Promise me you'll keep writing. Promise me you'll never let her silence you. Elena swallowed, then whispered, I promise. That vow became her anchor. Weeks later, Margaret discovered one of Elena's poems left on the table. She read it aloud, her voice dripping with contempt. You dare dream of freedom? Of worth? Foolish girl. She tore the paper in half. Elena trembled, but this time she didn't bow her head. Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp. Stop tearing her apart. She has more courage in one line of her writing than you've ever shown in your life. Margaret's face flushed with rage. You ungrateful boy. She's poisoned your mind. That night, Elena whispered to herself, I am not her prisoner. I am not invisible. For the first time, she believed her own words. In the darkness, her spirit grew fierce. Soon after, an opportunity came. A local teacher noticed Elena's hidden brilliance when she helped Daniel with his studies. The teacher invited her to read an essay at a small community gathering. Elena hesitated, fearing Margaret's wrath. Daniel urged her, This is your chance. When the evening came, Elena stood trembling before the modest crowd. Her voice wavered at first, but as the words flowed, something miraculous happened. Silence fell. Every eye fixed on her. Her pain, her truth, her strength filled the room. Margaret arrived midway, her face thunderous. But instead of shrinking, Elena raised her chin and kept reading. Her voice grew stronger with every sentence. The room erupted in applause when she finished. Margaret's control cracked that night, though she refused to admit it. The days after the gathering changed everything. Neighbors greeted Elena with new respect, whispering about her courage. Margaret, humiliated, tried to tighten her grip, but the world had already seen Elena's light. The cage was breaking. Daniel beamed with pride. Do you realize what you did? You showed them the truth. Elena shook her head in disbelief. I was terrified. Daniel smiled softly. That's what makes it powerful. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's standing despite it. Margaret's bitterness grew poisonous. One evening she cornered Elena. Don't mistake their applause for worth. You are still nothing without this roof. Elena looked into her stepmother's eyes and replied, calm and steady, I was nothing only when I believed you. Not anymore. That night, Elena packed her few belongings. Daniel found her. You're leaving? She nodded, tears welling. If I stay, she will destroy me. But if I go, maybe I'll discover who I'm meant to be. Daniel embraced her tightly. Then go. And don't look back. Elena moved to a small room near the school, working part-time while continuing her studies. She poured her heart into writing. Her words began to spread, first among students, then throughout the town. Soon her voice was no longer hidden. 1 year later, Elena stood on a stage in the city, reading her work to hundreds. Her voice, once silenced, now echoed with strength. I was told I was nothing, she read, but from nothing, I built everything. The crowd rose in thunderous applause. In the audience, Daniel wiped a tear, proud beyond words. Margaret was not there. She remained alone, consumed by her own bitterness. unable to accept that the girl she despised had become the woman everyone admired. Elena's journey had been carved from pain, but it bloomed into purpose. She had learned that scars were not signs of weakness, but of survival. And survival, when paired with courage, could turn even the most broken soul into a beacon of hope. Her final words that night captured everything she had lived. No voice is too small to matter. No story too hidden to change the world. I was once invisible, but now I am free. The crowd roared. Elena's truth, once buried, had finally found its wings.